For usual living on this channel is for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. Two quick things. There are memberships on YouTube should you want to join. To say thank you to yours truly for the content, you can just click the join button below this video. And we also have a Discord now that's free. That's been popping off, all sorts of fun stuff. You guys don't actually know it, but I'm farming you for content ideas. So if you want me to talk about anything specific, broad, let me know. We have lots of great conversations about all sorts of stuff, miners, GBTC, ETH, relative value, absolutely degenerate type stuff. The link for that's in the video of this description as well. So it's Wednesday, it's alts. It is alts, baby, and alts have done well-ish. You know, I think there's a lot of focus on the strong alts. There's a lot of hopium on the rotation play. Even if you don't trade Bitcoin, if you think Bitcoin is old, stupid tech, you needed to have some opinion on what's going on with Bitcoin here. So I will provide my opinion quickly, but similar to every pre-halving year, everyone thinks this is it. This is the run. We're going to go straight to all-time highs and beyond. And look, that could happen. History says probably not. This was 2019. I don't really remember the alt season, if there was one in 2019. I remember Litecoin sort of breaking out first, but I don't remember the alt picture per se, so I'd have to go back and look at that. But exact same situation here. We had a massive move off the bottom, I don't know, around 6 months before having it peaked, right? And then into having COVID happened. Regardless of what the event is, there's probably going to be something where we get some sort of pullback here eventually. This is 2016. You'll notice we're through the weekly cloud. We're slightly above the weekly cloud, almost to the 618. So if history repeats itself, even if it rhymes, we're probably going to find somewhere between 47 and 48 as the Pico top, probably. Okay, but if we go beyond that, then you know it's on like Donkey Kong, because this is a different ballgame at that point. The reasons we may keep going may be related to ETF hopium, and that's a reason alone to sell off. We've got a potential buy the rumor, sell the news event just on the announcement, right? I'm not talking about the launch of the product, but the announcement itself. You've got a GBTC unlock potentially. That's what, like 600,000 BTC or something ridiculous. And then you've got tax selling potentially in January relative to kind of pushing your tax burden off till the next year. So all that is to say, look, probably be careful up here. That's just my opinion, right? We've got some divs starting on lower time frames. We're reaching targets and then some. Like we're going well beyond the extensions of expectations on targets for Bitcoin, which is super bullish. So things look good. That's undeniable. But it does feel like we're sort of starting to get to the end of the road here a little bit. Maybe we get a euphoric move to 48, whatever. But I would just be careful with alts, because I know a lot of people are looking like, okay, let me rotate to this. Let me rotate to that. That could work. That could work really well. I just caution people for that 30% pullback that inevitably we're going to see. We're going to see a week where we're down 30%, okay? We're up 8 weeks in a row, and you think now's the time to jump into AVAX or some other coin? Like, there's going to be a face-melting down move here. Even if it's a wick, even if it's for 10 seconds. Happens every time and people act surprised. It's very likely to happen. So keep that in mind, you know, when you're aping into BONK at the top, okay? Or asking if BONK can keep going despite being up 2,500% in a month, right? Just keep that in mind. So this is dominance. Dominance looks great. Honestly, it's above the weekly cloud. It has reached its logical next consolidation point relative to where this bottomed. Also interesting that the edge-to-edge stuff worked even on dominance. I know a lot of people, including myself, either kind of discount dominance or don't think TA on dominance even matters. But hey, the cloud called this pretty well, right? We get into the cloud and away it went. We are pretty overbought based on TK C-clamp criteria, but this looks good, honestly. I don't know what would bring this down pre or post ETF, honestly. It's just a flows thing, you know? If there's this new liquidity soak coming in via ETF, assuming it's successful, it's just a relative value to the entire alt ecosystem. What we aren't seeing is mega tether prints here. So that's something to watch for with alts. Is alts kind of thrive on stables in circulation, whereas Bitcoin probably for the most part has a direct route to fiat on-ramps, even though obviously you can do this on Coinbase, Kraken, a million other exchanges through fiat on-ramps, but the stables kind of unlock the DeFi aspect. They unlock exchanges that don't have on-ramps. So stables are very important for alts. We are sort of reconsolidating and attempting a higher high here. The trader in me would absolutely love it if this thing retraced to like 230 again. I think this is billion. But overall, if this is white coffee, and you'd say, well, this is a sign of strength. This is probably bullish continuation. This is probably the bottom for alts broadly on the USD pairs, right? But when we get to the BTC pairs, a little bit of a different story. ETH BTC making a new multi-month low. Many other alts, all-time lows. Tezos, Litecoin. I'm sure EOS and Zcash made all-time lows. I don't even need to look at that chart, but the alt BTC index is continuing to say there was resistance at this diagonal, pulled back exactly where you'd expect it to. And, you can see the new relative low here, even on this index. So it may need an extended bottoming period within the next 6 months, somewhere a la 2020 style, right? Someone also said a comment about dominance peaking during the last halving or something like that. And my response is always, look, we haven't ever had an ETF like this. We're not going to have some exchange, hopefully rehypothecating and selling BTC and making alts and going out there and getting VC money to the tune of billions of dollars and pumping it into MAPS and Oxy and other crap, right? And that clearly helped BTC dominance fall extremely fast in 2021. So if you're doing this thought exercise, think about what's going to be different relative to what happened in 2019. Anyway, so it sounds like I'm super negative on alts relative to BTC. I am. That isn't to say there aren't alts that have done well. Ben Cowan, ICT guy, he gets a ton of crap from people because he's been beating this drum for months saying, look, you want to be denominated in BTC here because alts pre-halving historically have not done well. He's been right broadly. There are always going to be coins that do well relative to BTC at any given time, right? BONK, like I said, is up 2,500%. Great. Love it. Ordi up, 300,000%, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. There's always going to be something that outperforms. So anyway, ETH looks fine, looks okay. I'm still seeing a lot of on-chain whales, either Celsius or BlockFi or whoever, whales from 5 years ago, whales from the ICO who are selling ETH now. I understand the bankrupt companies selling their ETH. I don't really understand the OG whales selling their ETH. Price has barely moved and they're like, okay, I'm done. I guess, I guess if you're looking at what happened in 2021 and saying, man, I missed that. I got complacent. I need to get out now. Or they're seeing other coins that they prefer to be in. I don't know. TA wise though, this eventually will hit 3,100. I don't think that happens by January. I actually think it could happen in January. Typically ETH does better in Q1, but the trajectory here looks fine. It's just a matter of relative value, against BTC. ETHUSD on the daily support is 2,000 ultimately. That's where it broke out from, 1990 thereabouts. There's some cloud evidence for 1875 or whatever this is, 1890. But if ETH is sub 2,000, then something's bearish broadly, because that's where it should pull back to. On the 4-hour, ETH also had an ascending triangle. It's got a bear div now. It's reached the logical target. So I think to expect anything here in the moment might be a little bit of a stretch. Would love to see it pull back to 2,000 and see what happens. But it doesn't feel to me like there's a lot of bidders on ETH right now. ETH BTC, new multi-month low, below the 200-week moving average, below the yearly pivot. This should logically make a further parabola to the downside. And what I'd want to see is just a massive washout towards 037. A bull div is starting here. So I don't think it's going to magically bounce on the first bull div or the first emergence of a bull div. I think it's going to take some time. But you are getting a lower low in price with a higher low in RSI. This bull div can get canceled if price keeps going, right? But it's the earliest of early signs that we are getting there. That isn't saying, hey, that was a great time to buy. It's saying we're starting to get some bearish exhaustion here, which makes sense. It's been down only since mid 2022. And you'll know I'm wrong if we're above 07, which is a massive price move from here. There just hasn't been an opportunity for ETH BTC to do well since the merge on TA. And you can see I always have these fibs on here. That's mainly just to acknowledge that there is potentially some sort of harmonic. I'm no expert on harmonics, but this would be a bullish bat if it reaches the 886. Super rough, but that's why that's on that chart. So yeah, I like further lows still on ETH BTC. It may find some support at the psychological round number of 05, but it doesn't look bullish no matter how you slice it. Solana has continued to sort of slow down a little bit here, which makes sense, right? I talked about this when it had the 3 drives and then it had head and shoulders. It didn't break down great. It just hasn't had strong continuation, which makes sense. It's up, I don't know, 300%, right? You know, this stuff just doesn't go up in a straight line. So I would be extremely relieved if we do see a pullback after 8 weeks of up on everything. That gives me the confidence to want to jump back into some of this stuff. But up here, I don't know. Even if this goes to 100 without me, I just shrug my shoulders and say, okay, you can look at the alligator fractal stuff, but it's been kind of noisy because the alligator has been flipping back and forth. Right now it's flipped a little bit more bullish, but I just feel like, you know, why even bother at this point? Now the cloud, on the other hand, is telling you, yes, we have a bullish TK crisscross on the 8 hour. The cloud is giving you a signal that we may have an opportunity for bullish continuation here. It's not trying to predict the future. It's just saying, look, these are bullish conditions. Do I trust it? No, I don't trust it. But the 8 hour cloud says, yeah, it could keep going here. Daily Solana has a pretty massive TKC clamp. So I would much rather wait for this noisy chop to either pull back or make new highs than to think about touching it up here. But 42, 43 is the level based on the Kijun, based on the cloud, where there is some logical retracement support, if you will, down there. And whenever you have a real decent trend, this is what you want to see. You don't want to see straight up, because people like me are saying the same thing. They're saying, okay, we've been up for 8 weeks. This is just a probability thing, you know? Eventually, you're going to see people taking profit, and then you're going to see more people taking profit or selling than buying, and then price goes down. Okay, so 42, 43, 44, whatever the Kijun is, ends up being, you know, that's the level that makes the most sense for Solana. On the weekly, you could maybe even argue maybe a little bit of a rising wedge. I don't know. But yes, it's in the weekly cloud. Looks good. Ultimately, the target's 145 or whatever. Love it. The trader in me wants everything to retrace deep. I'm talking Solana to 25, right? Not because, oh, I missed the trade. I have Solana. I'm good, right? But let's retrace all this stuff and then run it back. You know, like we're pre-halving. We're not really supposed to have the crazy momentum everywhere that we're seeing in some of these large cap coins. Sol BTC also hit a logical target based on the Adam and Eve here at the bottom. This is also in the weekly cloud. This also points to strength in Sol BTC versus a lot of these other BTC charts that are not strong at all. Sol ETH also looks strong, but again, it's a probability game. You know, it broke out of the ascending triangle at the bottom. It's through the high time frame cloud. Maybe this ends up being an M double top. Doesn't look like anything I want to particularly jump into here. There are a few more upside targets, but again, it just, everything's super strong. I mean, look at AVAX, right? AVAX is up 10% today. It was up whatever percent yesterday. For my style of trading, it's just very hard for me to want to jump in without a little bit of a pullback or consolidation or a scare. Something's got to give here. AVAX BTC, not quite in the weekly cloud there, but certainly looks like the downtrend for the moment is over. If I had to guess, we go sideways from here. But AVAX USD looks pretty strong. Cardano is another one that I know a lot of people are looking at and talking about. It is getting ready to get into the weekly cloud. The weekly cloud is massive as far as the upside. The TA tells you this looks good. The previous run was fueled by kind of Ponzi-nomics type stuff in China. So you got to wonder, how far is this really going to go? Is it actually going to go to 169? That wouldn't prevent me from entering the trade. I would just, you know, keep that in mind. But at the moment, it's an Adam and Eve. You do have a bullish TK cross. That isn't an entry signal on an edge to edge. You need price in the cloud. I know a lot of people want to jump the gun on this. Doesn't mean they won't be right. I would just want a little bit more confidence, because this may morph into an inverted head and shoulders throughout 2024. And if that's the case, that would make a lot more sense to me post Bitcoin halving, that these alts start to take off. Something else in the back of my mind is, look, we have ETFs now. If we just have constant flows, maybe this 4-year cycle is completely over. Maybe alts just perpetually die off on the BTC pairs Sure, the USD pairs will do okay, but there's no guarantee that we have alt seasons like we did before. It's a different environment. It is different this time, literally different this time, just because of the flows imbalance. I can't stress that enough. ETH BTC looks still very bearish, but certainly better than making new multi-month lows every other week. So definitely still one on my watch list. Link looks fine. Maybe this is a low time frame ascending triangle on the USD pair. Still has plenty of upside room. None of this stuff makes me want to jump in right now. The Link BTC chart may morph into some sort of inverted head and shoulders as well, right? Maybe ascending triangle, eventually something like that, but doesn't quite look ready for continuation just yet. Link was another one. I saw a bunch of whale alerts on people sending Link back to exchanges. And I'd say 99% of the time, if you see someone sending coins to an exchange, it's probably because they're selling. So you'd have to, you kind of have to read between the lines a little bit there, but most of the time, if a whale is sending coins to an exchange, it's to sell. So you are getting some sell pressure up here. DOT looks okay on the 3-day cloud, right? It's above the 3-day cloud for the first time since the literal top. It reached the 2020 low. So it completely retraced everything. So trend-wise, this looks okay, right? But you look at the BTC chart, and the last time I looked at this, it made an all-time low. Looking at this now, it made an all-time low a few weeks back, and certainly looks just as bearish, right? You could say this is oversold. You could say this needs to retrace, but again, it's just a flows imbalance coin issuance argument. That's it, right? You look at the inflation on DOT versus BTC. Look at the long-term holders. Look at the global ETF access or whatever for institutions. It's that simple. It's just not something I would buy and hold. I think trading it's fine. I just don't think buying and holding it does you any favors. MATIC, kind of the same thing, right? It potentially is setting itself up for success in 2024. I get more confident if, like ADA or Link BTC, that we start to get a triple bottom on this, like, again, inverted head and shoulders type stuff. I think it's way too early to jump into this. Even if you're right, I don't see enough evidence for it personally, because the MATIC BTC chart, everyone got super excited when this bounced. It hit, I think it was the 3-day or the daily Kijun, whatever that 2700 sat level is, and now it's back to multi-month lows. So I know the alt folks don't like to look at the BTC chart, but it's really where you need to pay attention to, because if you're losing to BTC on the USD side, what's the point? Why bother? Why take that extra risk when you can just hodl and chill? Atom, very same story. Slightly below the weekly cloud on the USD pair, arguably at a range low on the Atom BTC pair. Extremely oversold, right? But again, I assume this is some sort of supply imbalance. Inflation, I know they just capped their inflation at like 10% or something, but you can see it in these charts, right? You can see it in the DOT chart and the Atom chart. You can even see it in the LTC chart. I mean, this is a new all-time low for LTC BTC. LTC USD looks okay. It's held this trend line for like 65 years now. Maybe this gets back into the weekly cloud. I like 175, but I know people only hear the targets on the USD pair and think, oh man, what a great trade. And they just completely discount the BTC pair all-time lows. So, you trade what you want to trade, but could this bounce? Sure. It's just, this has mainly been down only since existence, and I just don't see why you'd even bother. Let's go to some user submissions real quick. Tia, most of these new coins, it's anybody's guess. They're kind of at the whim of the market. I would watch coin unlocks. I would watch issuance schedule. The price is kind of irrelevant. Everybody's sort of hyped up on the flavor of the week coin. TA wise, maybe 8 would be the Kijun level. Trend looks great, obviously, but 8 would be the level to watch there. This is BONK, and what I'm trying to illustrate is it's up a lot, right? But ultimately, it's probably up a lot because Bitcoin and Solana are up a lot. So you do have to have an opinion on Bitcoin, on Solana, on the market broadly. If you're buying BONK up here, right? It could run another 25, 50%, and then a week, 2 weeks from now, drop 50% in a day, easily. Zero doubt in my mind that that's possible. Zero doubt in my mind that this chart could go all the way back to where it started in October. And a lot of people aren't going to believe that. But, somebody asked me what would I do? I would sell any tick higher from here and never look at this chart again. But that's just me. ORDI, kind of the same thing. It is at the whim of Bitcoin, so you need a Bitcoin opinion. If you're bullish Bitcoin here and you think we're going to new all-time highs, that's your opinion, and I would trade around that. But most of these alts are just strong because of the majors, because of Solana, because of the wealth effect, because of the rotation play, whatever you want to call it. They aren't necessarily moving on their own. No idea what this one is. Again, it's up, 2x, 3x, 4x maybe since the bottom. How much more do you really think you're going to get here before a pullback? It's just probabilities. That's all it is. If you're a long-term investor in Render or whatever else I'm talking about, my opinion doesn't matter. Render, I like 260. I like that this has sold off, consolidated, had a run, consolidated again, had a run, and had a head and shoulders, broke down. It didn't go automatically back to zero and is starting to retrace again to the top side. So trend-wise, this looks fine, right? There's nothing really to say here. If it's a long-term hold, which I think is reasonable, great. On a pullback, 260 would be the level to watch. And I can't tell you how disappointed I am in everyone for not even tagging me on Twitter about this inverted head and shoulders, whatever, ascending triangle on helium. I haven't looked at this chart in a very long time. And man, what a setup that would have been. This is what you want to trade, right? This is what I love to see. Just years of absolute death, years of selling off, spending over a year consolidating. And the cloud told you exactly where to get back in on that breakout. And it's had a pretty phenomenal move from here. So I don't think we see continuation before this thing chops around a lot, but it's definitely a change of character from the previous 2-3 years. I don't know if they've changed the issuance or there's some product coming, or, there's always usually a narrative behind a move like that. SUSHI, Adam and Eve at the bottom on the weekly pair, still slightly below the weekly cloud. You may see, again, a type of inverted head and shoulders here where the upside from here immediately is rather limited, and then we just chop around maybe for 6 months between $1 and $2, and then sometime 6 months from now, right, that's the time. Similar to the HNT chart, this thing chopped around for a long time. Very similar to Link, right? Very similar to GME and AMC. Same type deal. So that's when I feel more confident to jump into stuff like this. There's still a massive edge-to-edge move there, obviously. SUSHI BTC looks okay. No real trader set up here other than eventually, potentially, an edge-to-edge move on that. Then lastly, GALA. I don't remember what this one is. Looks okay, very similar to everything else, right? Where it's trying to find some strength on the BTC pair. Has a pretty large retracement potential, right? A mean reversion, 50% move. USD pair could put in an eventual mega inverted head and shoulders, but anything above 0.35, and I'd give it a shot. I mean, the odds of this thing just chopping around in the cloud, I think, are pretty high for the next 4 to 6 months. So I would set an alert at 0.35 and then come back to it and make a decision from there. So broadly, we're still trying to figure out, are we going to go higher on Bitcoin? Are we going to consolidate? If Bitcoin's able to hold the highs and consolidate, alts have a chance at some sort of rotation play, right? You've got people taking profit on Bitcoin, rotating, while at the same time, there are people behind them bidding up Bitcoin or buying those sellers' rotation plays, right? If Bitcoin sells off reasonably hard, if this is the local top, then alts should sell off extremely violently, like 30 to 50% in a week easily, just because they're all, for the most part, up a lot on the USD pairs. That's all for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.